They took your picture to 12 different shamans. Not because they were curious, but because they were desperate. Desperate to understand why nothing seemed to work on you. Why every time they whispered your name into their curses, nothing moved. Why every attempt to bind your spirit, to block your path, to choke your voice, failed. So they went to the old ones. The ones with bones in their pouches and ash in their eyes. The ones who speak in dreams and silence and know the smell of real power when it walks into the room. They handed them your photo, one by one, in 12 different cities, in 12 different circles, some buried in forest huts, others behind locked metal doors, and they waited, breath held, for signs of possession, of weakness, of vulnerability. But none came. The first shaman took one glance and dropped the image like it burned her fingers. The second muttered something in a language no one could translate, then refused to speak again for 2 days. The third held the photo to their forehead and wept. Not tears of sorrow, tears of reverence, of recognition. They all said the same thing, though they said it differently. This soul is not unprotected. This soul is not alone. This soul is sealed, marked, guarded, not by angels, not by saints, by something older, something that doesn't answer to prayer, something that never needed a name. And suddenly, the ones who brought your picture started to understand. You weren't just lucky. You weren't just resilient. You weren't just untouched by chance. You were chosen. Not in the way fairy tales describe. Not by fate or prophecy. You were chosen by survival. Claimed by something dark enough to walk with you, and silent enough to never speak its presence. And that's where it all begins. You were not born under a shield. You weren't wrapped in glowing stars or carried by light. No holy oil touched your forehead. You weren't spared the chaos. You were thrown right into its heart. You were made to bleed for your wisdom. You were carved out of consequences. You were trained in pain. Not because the universe hated you, but because it was preparing you for something most wouldn't survive. There's no poetry in your protection. No divine softness. It is made of iron, of sharp edges, of silence that screams. People look at you and think you're lucky. They don't see what it cost. They think strength is something given. But yours was earned in every moment you didn't die when it would have been easier. In every scream you swallowed. In every betrayal you buried. That's where the shield was born. Not forged by gods, but by the repetition of surviving what should have ended you. You became a wall not because you were fearless, but because you had no choice. You kept standing. When everyone else broke, you endured. When they called you cold, you were already fire. When they called you mad, you were already awake. That's what they felt. That's what they feared. That's what the shamans saw in your eyes. Something wild, yes, but not unstable. Something cracked, yes, but not fragile. Something deeper than logic, louder than reason. The kind of protection that doesn't show itself until the knife is halfway in. And even then, it doesn't scream, it smiles. Because the thing that guards you doesn't wear robes, it doesn't chant, it doesn't warn, it just waits. And when it moves, it ends everything that tried to harm you. Quietly, permanently, without forgiveness. You are not watched by angels. What protects you doesn't carry wings or glow in the dark. It doesn't come when called. It doesn't weep when you're wounded. It waits, like a wolf in a cave, like fire under the ash. It doesn't speak in signs, it speaks in endings. It is not a guardian. It is a consequence. It is the answer to every silent cry you buried under your ribs. It doesn't love you. It doesn't need to. It respects you. It saw you when no one else did. It watched you fall, crack, bleed, lose, and still get back up. Not because you believed it would get better, but because something inside you refused to stay down. That's what summoned it. That's what earned its loyalty. And now it doesn't leave. Even when you think you're alone, it's there. Not watching over you, but waiting behind you. Ready to correct the balance if anyone steps out of line. And they've tried. Oh, they've tried. They cursed your name, spit on your photo, buried objects meant to silence you. They called upon spirits to erase you. And every single time, their rituals returned to ash. Their hate looped back like a boomerang. Because what protects you cannot be bound. It doesn't exist in their world. It doesn't answer to their gods. It has no mercy. It only understands the weight of what you carry. And it makes damn sure no one adds to it. When they try to ruin you, it listens. It waits. It gives them enough rope. And then it pulls. They call it karma. You call it silence. I call it exactly what they feared. The reason their spells break. The reason you're still here. Still breathing. Still smiling. Not out of joy, but out of knowing. That nothing touches you without consequence anymore. The next time they try, let them. Let them burn your name into candles and whisper lies under their breath. Let them twist the energy of the moon and scratch runes into dirt. Let them stare at your image and wonder why their work keeps failing. Let them exhaust their magic trying to undo what you didn't even cast. Because they still don't get it. You didn't place a shield on yourself. You became the shield. You didn't summon protection. You are the protection. Every ounce of darkness you walked through didn't just hurt you, it built you. Every betrayal didn't just scar you, it trained you. Every heartbreak didn't just break you, it refined you. You're not a target anymore. You're a threshold. Anyone who tries to step through you without permission doesn't just get blocked. They get changed. You aren't a spell. You're a warning. You aren't saved. You're sacred. And not in the holy sense. In the raw, untouchable, don't you dare kind of sacred. The kind that shakes rooms when it speaks. The kind that makes liars tremble. The kind that only shows up in legends and whispers. So when they took your picture to 12 different shamans and all of them said the same thing, they weren't speaking fear. They were speaking fact. You're protected. Not by luck, not by light, but by force. And that force is not random. It is not passive. It chose you because you earned it. And now it does not forget. So sleep tonight, not in peace, but in power. Knowing no matter who tries, no matter how they scheme, you don't walk alone. Something walks with you. Something watches. Something remembers. And that is why they can't touch you.